The flat rocks are large areas of exposed sandstone, which were created more than 12,000 years ago by the erosional forces of ice marginal rivers related to the catastrophic drainage of glacial Lake Iroquois. As ice recession continued and Lake Iroquois expanded, drainage from the lake began to flow eastward. The outflow rivers stripped large areas of their superficial cover and cut deep bedrock channels. The most intense scour generally occurred on major watershed divides: Stafford Rock, Blackman Rock, Altona Flat Rock. Sandstone pavement barrens are an open canopy woodland that occurs on very shallow acidic soils over the sandstone bedrock. This community was best developed where the bedrock is nearly level, forming a pavement. The best examples are found on Potsdam sandstone in Clinton County, New York, west of northern Lake Champlain. With fewer than 20 known sites in the world, the Jack Pine Sandstone Pavement Barrens is a unique ecosystem type. Fire is the most important ecological process for the maintenance of healthy sandstone pavement barren communities. Other disturbances include blowdowns, ice storms, and subsequent restoration cutting. The New York Jack Pine Barrens are found in a discontinuous 5-kilometer wide belt of bare sandstone areas, extending approximately 30 kilometers southeastward into the Champlain Valley from Covey Hill, Quebec. The locations of the Stafford, Blackman, and Altona Flat Rocks are shown in Figure 1 by David Franzi. The best examples of Jack Pine Barrens are the Altona and Blackman Flat Rocks. A series of unprecedented ice storms in January 1998 damaged nearly 18 million acres of rural and urban forest throughout Maine, New Hampshire, Vermont, and New York, and was among the most ecologically significant natural disturbances in the forest of eastern North America during the 20th century. The Great Ice Storm of 1998 impacted 4.6 million acres in New York, and nearly 700,000 acres of those forests were severely damaged. In many regions, a combination of cold temperatures and 3 days of precipitation caused 1 to 3 inches of ice accumulation. Ice loadings of 2 inches or more in the branches of trees can cause severe tree damage, including breakage of the main stem and crown loss. Most of the ice storm affected areas in Clinton County, New York, were severely damaged, including the Sandstone Barrens. Ice storm damage to pine trees resulted in crowns on the ground as heavy slash, with cones still attached, and estimates of woody debris averaging 18 tons per acre in the 8 sites sampled in a study of this ice storm. These unusually high fuel loadings increased the probability for catastrophic wildfire, with flame lengths difficult to suppress. Fires of such high intensity could cause destruction of jack pine seeds in the slash and adverse effects on the thin layer of organic soil. Fortunately, wildfires did not occur during the early years following the ice storm, and the area of the 2018 Altona Fire had not been heavily impacted by the 1998 ice storm. The topography of the Altona Flat Rock is generally level, with changes in elevation along a step-like series of treads and risers. The frequent drought and low nutrient nature of these pavement barrens promote growth of fire-adapted plant species. The dominant tree is jack pine, Pinus banksiana, a boreal species near the southern limit of its natural distribution. Jack pine may be the most tolerant of tree species to this nutrient-deficient and droughty site. Other pines found here include pitch pine, white pine, and red pine. The shrub layer is dominated by fire-adapted species like black huckleberry, low bush blueberry, and sheep laurel. Other important shrubs growing here are black chokeberry, bracken fern, sweet fern, and bearberry. The ground cover includes many lichens and mosses, which may form a continuous cover in some areas. Lichen include reindeer lichens and cup lichen. Mosses include haircap moss and big red stem moss. Herbs grow throughout the ground cover include wintergreen, cowwheat, poverty grass, and common hairgrass. The fire of 2018 began a growth of shrubs like blueberries and huckleberry, and the slow regrowth of jack pine trees from seeds released from their cones by the fire's heat. The slow deterioration of the fire's remains, including fallen tree trunks over the coming decade, create both a nutrient-rich soil and potential fuel for a new fire. Over many years, the very slow regeneration would return the forest to a condition ready for the next fire, and after such fire, the process would start all over again. This video will explore the barren after the 550-acre 2018 fire, the largest fire since 1957, and the first large disturbance since the major ice storm of 1998. The ice storm felled trees over much of the Altona Flat Rock Barrens, creating a nightmare for foresters, afraid a new fire and the tons of litter and downed trees would destroy the seeds from the jack pine's cones, opened by the fire's heat, before the dispersed seeds had time to germinate and grow to a tree size, able to withstand the next fire. Some areas within the fire perimeter remain unburned. These unburned patches can contribute seeds to help regenerate the new forest. They can also be an important refuge for wildlife species present at the time of the fire. It's important to note that fires do not burn homogeneously. There is a range of fire severity within the burn area. Some trees are scorched, some are charred. Some areas show effects of crown fire. Other areas may have had surface fire only. Some areas will show litter and humus burned down to the mineral soil or bedrock, while in other areas only the uncompacted dry leaf litter is burned, leaving humus intact. Fire is an important environmental factor in the life histories of other plant species in the jack pine barrens. Ericaceous shrubs such as lowbush blueberry, black huckleberry, and sheep laurel comprise the dominant fire-adapted understory species. Blueberries show remarkable flowering and fruit production during the second growing season after a fire. In the late 1800s, the Flat Rocks supported a blueberry industry and fires were set periodically to enhance blueberry production. The physical environment of Flat Rock has been maintained by periodic fires. Fire exclusion from this fire-dependent ecosystem will cause the local extinction of its fire-dependent species and the general decline of the whole community. Fire exclusion will eliminate the natural cycles which have maintained the barrens for much of its history. In the immediate aftermath of the fire, the ground resembled a barren moonscape, devoid of vegetation, but littered by now open jack pine cones. Jack pine seedlings germinated within a month following this fire. Jack pine is a relatively short-lived tree species. Without fire, an aging jack pine stand is not likely to replace itself with a new generation. Jack pine does not sprout and relies entirely on seed dispersal from cones opened by heat or open cone trees to regenerate a new stand following fire, and it is often necessary for fire to expose mineral soil for regeneration to be successful. Ferns also sprouted, and maples, oaks, and birches sent out vegetative root and stump sprouts. By the spring of 2019, other ground cover had begun to regenerate, most notably the blueberry and huckleberry. Additionally, jack pine seeds continued to germinate, adding to the already thick blanket of seedlings that now covered much of the area. Jack pine seedlings at this point numbered in the tens of thousands per acre. Ground cover continued to grow and fill in over the course of the 2019 and 2020 growing seasons. Following the 2019 growing season, no new jack pine seedlings have germinated, and seedling mortality has slightly reduced density in some areas. Seedling density in 2021 remains incredibly high in most areas, and many seedlings have grown to over 50 centimeters in height. Wildlife, which initially stayed away from the burned areas, has returned to using this habitat on an equal basis with the unburned barrens. Blueberries and lichen thrive on the burned soil. Pitch pine, that escaped most of the fire, are also thriving. Wetlands dissect the flat rock and created not just barriers to fire spread, but were potential refugia for wildlife and invertebrate species. Many of these wetlands are maintained by beaver activity. Dominant wildlife largely returned in 2019 when blueberries had filled in the understory. Without fire, the flat rocks would probably degenerate into low-quality heath barrens. The development of ecology-based fire management plans, natural and planned ignition fires, is a long and arduous task, but necessary to preserve this unique ecology. The jackpine sandstone pavement barrens are special places, worthy of the efforts required to preserve them.